Krishna never stops loving us, even if he, by his own will and by his own arrangements, makes for a situation wherein it appears that he is distant from us. It appears that he is non-existent to us. Everyone is looking for Krishna because everyone is Anandamaya Vyasat. But Krishna's sportive leelas are such that he always thinks of the welfare of every living entity. Therefore, it is improper to conclude that Krishna ever has anything but our well-being in mind. In Jaiva Dharma, it is mentioned that one disciple of a certain Babaji, who was acting as the guru of the disciple, he asked to Babaji Maharaj that if such sportive play of Krishna comes to be known to the conditioned souls, that he has put the conditioned soul, he has put the soul, the jiva, into terrible suffering conditions of life, just so that he can derive the pleasure of seeing the exhibition of his golden compassionate nature upon the black background of material suffering conditional life of the jiva, then will not that jiva, that conditioned soul, become resentful and retaliate against the Lord? So Babaji Maharaj, he answers the question wonderfully. He says, yes, the conditioned soul, if he chances to hear how it is that Krishna has purposefully made the arrangement for the souls to come to suffer in abject ignorance of his transcendental existence, suffering unlimitedly. You can't even imagine how much suffering is going on in the material world. And we can't even imagine how much suffering, so-called suffering, it is actually misery, just like a dream condition. When there's a nightmare, it is miserable. But when one wakes up from the dream, then the state of well-being becomes all the more appreciated. So similarly, Babaji Maharaj tells that the conditioned soul certainly will retaliate, because the conditioned soul is not possessed of pure unalloyed devotional consciousness. But the unalloyed devotee, he will never retaliate against the Lord. The conditioned soul will retaliate, and on account of his retaliation, Krishna will cast that soul again into demoniac species of life to suffer repeated birth and death for another time immemorial, until the conditioned soul comes finally to the perfected condition of life, wherein he doesn't begrudge any amount of suffering that he has to undergo in order to ultimately bring about Krishna's pleasure. That is the pure devotional consciousness. Srimati Radharani experiences more suffering and more happiness in her dealings with Krishna than all the suffering and all the happiness that can be possibly conceived of in both the material and spiritual worlds put together. How much suffering she must experience in her relationship with Krishna. But what is her mentality? Her mentality is given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by the grace of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that suffering which brings about Krishna's happiness becomes the cause of my greatest happiness. So a pure devotee will never begrudge Krishna. Rather, he will understand that if Krishna, because Krishna is the most intelligent, it is not that we have no part to play in the matter of the misuse of our minute independence or our free will. Yet Krishna is so kind that he takes advantage. He knows how to make the best use of the bad bargain, not only for himself in the matter of his relishing the exhibition of his compassionate nature upon the black background of material existence, but also his main purpose in the whole affair of manifesting and dissolving eternally cosmic manifestations after cosmic manifestation. His whole purpose is simply for the enlightenment of the jiva, to give the emancipated jiva an experience of ananda which cannot even be experienced by the nityasiddha, eternally free jivas. Because the nityasiddhas, they never come under the sway of Mahamaya. They never lose the transcendental position. Even devotees like Jai and Vijay, who fell down, or not fell down, but were cursed to come again to this material world after their emancipation, they never even came under the influence of the three modes of material nature as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and other incarnations of themselves. So, what to speak of the Nityasiddhas? What to speak of Radharani? What to speak of Krishna? They may know something of the, of the material condition. They can see that someone is suffering. So in certain respects, they may be able to empathize and manifest compassion on one level. Even because Krishna never stops loving us, he continues to reside within the heart of every living entity, in the body of a pig, in the body of a worm and stool, in the body of a demigod, or in the body of human beings, etc. So he's continuously remaining with us, inspiring us in various ways, so as to bring us ultimately to the supreme conclusion of transcendental enlightenment, which by contrast to the darkness is experienced wonderfully in a way which can never be experienced even by the eternal associates of Krishna. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he proclaims that the emancipated jivas who are coming from this material world to the, let's say, eternal association of Krishna in the spiritual world are Krishna's dearmost devotees. And being Krishna's dearmost devotees, Krishna very often asked the emancipated jiva, when he gets back home, back to Godhead, Krishna asked them, my dear Swarup, you say that you are my unalloyed pure devotee, and you have unconditional love for me. Yes, anything you say, Krishna. Then could you please do me one favor? Because after all, there's no one more qualified than you. No one who can empathize with the plight of the fallen conditioned souls more than you. my dear Swarup, could you please go back to the material world to deliver the fallen conditioned souls? Sanatana Goswami says that very often Krishna asks this of the emancipated jiva, because no one can understand what is in store for the jiva. No one can understand the nature of the darkness of material existence like the emancipated jiva. And no one can understand what is in store for the jiva in the matter of the the wonderfully enhanced transcendental bliss that is experienced by the emancipated jiva against the black background of his previous condition of material suffering. No one can understand that except the emancipated jiva. Therefore, he becomes the greatest emissary of Krishna in the matter of manifesting Krishna's Karuna Shakti or Kripa Shakti, on account of that, let's say, experience that he himself has had in the matter of understanding the sweetness and beauty of Krishna's wonderful sportive leelas.